The goofy roguelite shooter that I've been developing on and off for over 4 years now, Gunforged, is finally available for purchase on Steam. It's $8.99, that's US dollars, but there's a week-long 20% launch discount. So if the game looks interesting or fun to you, please consider purchasing it. That would help me a lot. As a lot of you know, I'm trying to be a full-time indie developer, and Gunforged is kind of a fork in the road. The performance of Gunforged is going to determine how the rest of this year is going to go. Before I get started, you should know that Gunforged is a goofy fantasy roguelite shooter where you construct guns and collect passive abilities to create the ultimate monster slaying build. In the game, you collect gun parts as you complete waves of increasingly difficult enemies, and you can use these gun parts to assemble a series of runes and stats that make your build really effective. You can also choose from one of 3 passives after each wave, and these passives are designed to further increase your power. There are 3 levels in the game, and after you beat those 3 levels, that will unlock an end game system for you as well, which I get into later in this devlog. But again, if Gunforged looks like your cup of tea, please check out the Steam page and consider purchasing it. That link is in the description below. I think the most important thing that people want to know about is controller support, which I added just in the last week or so. It was quite a large effort, but the game plays very well. With controller support, you have the ability to rebind your buttons for several of the in-game actions. You also have a built-in aim assist, which you can disable in the settings. Regarding Steam, I added 13 Steam achievements tied to various achievements in-game, like killing bosses or dealing a certain amount of damage, and I added support for Steam Cloud saves so that you can play Gunforged on any supported platform with your save. When I was playtesting Gunforged, I discovered that once you beat the game, there was really no reason to continue playing, and this was a huge problem because I found that in my playtesting, I would beat the dungeon level and I would never go back to the dungeon level. There was never a reason to do that. And the same is true of the graveyard level and ultimately the cave level. If you beat all 3, there's no reason to really keep playing the game. And so within the past couple weeks, I added a new end game system, and I'm calling this the Madness system. And this system borrows ideas quite heavily from games like Tiny Rogues. Every time you beat each level, so the dungeon, the graveyard, and the cave, you will get a Madness point, and the Madness point can be spent here at this imp, and these Madness points change the game in a way that makes the game more difficult. So for instance, you've got increased enemy range, increased enemy bullet speed, as well as some fun ones like this, which causes health potions to sprout legs and run away from you. So this Madness system makes the game more challenging for people who found the game too easy on the first run. It also gives you a reason to replay the game through all of the levels, and to sweeten the deal even more, I added some meta upgrades or permanent progression items that require certain Madness tiers. So that means that you won't actually be able to unlock the full upgrade tree until you progress decently far into the Madness system. I also added a cutscene to introduce this Madness system, as well as a cutscene to introduce the game. Now these are very basic. These are basically just flavor text that give you some indication on the theme and who the character you're playing as is, but don't expect like a novel or very sophisticated world building here. Beyond those things, I've just been stuffing the game with much more content, and I'll list some of the notable items here, but just look at this board. I mean, this done column here is 227 items. So I've completed 227 items since the last devlog here, and yeah, needless to say, I'm not going to be able to mention all of these. So first up, I redid the level art for the graveyard. The previous graveyard art was just a little bit too visually noisy and didn't really match thematically. So I gave it an overhaul, and I think you'd probably agree that this artwork for this level is much improved. Additionally, I've finished the cave level, complete with every unique enemy required for this level, including the 2 unique bosses. Here is the stalagmite crab, who becomes invulnerable every so often, which is actually really annoying to deal with. This is a rock monster, which is tanky and shoots stalagmite projectiles in a sort of diagonal quad directional, is that a thing? well, whatever, quad directional angle. And here's one of the bosses for the cave level, Nakey the Mole Rat. He leaps around and slams you with his giant pickaxe. And I'm gonna leave the second boss, the Wave 20 boss, for you to discover. I haven't shown this boss much anywhere on stream or elsewhere, so I'm hoping that you guys enjoy it when you get to him. I added a dragon gun that shoots fireballs. I added drag and drop to the gun forging UI screen, which I know was a huge request. I added a copycat rune, which duplicates the rune in the first non-innate rune slot. I added this passive, where stamina is used as health instead of your health, which means that if you've got a lot of dash charges, you can actually become way tankier. I added a cannon goblin to the graveyard level. These guys are actually super cute. I love them. I finished the skeleton snake boss, and it turned out very well. This is the Wave 20 boss of the graveyard level. I created a zombie tycoon boss called the Mausoleum Magnate, and he shoots money bags at you, among other things. He is the first boss in the graveyard. I added set bonuses to guns, meaning that if you complete a thematically coherent gun, so like if you collect all the moss parts or all of the popcorn parts, then the amount of rune slots you get are doubled, which allows you to just stuff your gun with all kinds of runes. I added a prize wheel encounter type, which costs 20 gold to spin, but can reward anything from gold to runes to a passive to a health globe to nothing. I created a necromancer gun. This is interesting because it shoots pathfinding skeletons, so they're like little minions that get shot out of your gun instead of traditional bullets. Alongside the necromancer gun, I created a haunt rune. Haunt is interesting in that it does not do anything directly to an enemy that's affected by haunt. Rather, enemies that are affected by haunt deal damage to nearby enemies, and that damage is indicated by this little ghost flying from the damaged enemy to the haunted enemy. I added a frog gun, which is also interesting and not a traditional bullet, because the frogs actually hop around and stop midway through their travel. I implemented the music that I hired a contractor to make. Here's a little snippet of some of those tracks. This one is for the graveyard, and if you ask me, I think it's a banger. I also did a ton of playtesting on the game, and I tweaked a lot of things. I actually changed how the gun part randomization works. So previously, each gun part contributed a different stat to the overall gun stats. So for instance, the receiver contributed to bullet fire rate when no other gun parts did. That means that the magazine and the barrel did not have an effect on fire rate. The problem that I ran into is that there were some gun parts that were just always obviously better in terms of bumping the DPS number up. Because DPS is a calculation of fire rate times individual bullet damage, that means that as fire rate goes up, your DPS is almost always guaranteed to go up. So now I'm targeting a certain DPS number when I randomly generate a part, and then I'm choosing a random fire rate and adjusting the bullet damage in coordination with that fire rate to equal the DPS that I decided upon. And also, now every gun contributes to all the stats. So barrels can contribute to fire rate, magazines can contribute to fire rate, receivers contribute to fire rate, so on and so forth. And what this has done is this has actually greatly improved the variety of the game. I found that in playtesting this change, my decisions were a lot more meaningful and I was ending up with a lot more interesting guns. So I think this change was definitely an improvement for the game. I also added a wasp gun, and the wasp gun has the innate rune of homing bullet, so the wasps that the gun shoots will chase enemies essentially. I also created this passive, which is called Grill or Be Grilled, which was a suggestion from one of my stream viewers. Every certain number of enemies that dies while affected by bleed and haunt spawns a flesh monster that leaps lambs enemies. And again, I think that this guy is super cute. I can't help but giggle every time he spawns. I added a chicken gun, which is a rubber chicken that shoots actual chickens that also launch eggs as they travel. So this is a good time to mention too that I also added unlock conditions for some of the content in the game. So rather than making all the content available to you at once, there are some in-game things that you need to do to unlock certain types of guns. Alright, well that's just a small sampling of the 227 items I've done since the last devlog, so I hope you enjoyed. I do plan on making a longer video in the future where I'm gonna go over the entire evolution of Gunforged from the day I started it to the release day. So subscribe if that sounds interesting to you. And again, please head over to the Steam page, purchase Gunforged if it's something that interests you. I very much appreciate that. This is going to be a huge milestone in my indie game journey, and like I said, this is kind of a fork in the road for me. The success or non-success of Gunforged is going to very largely determine how I spend the rest of my full-time indie dev time that I have available. And hey, even if Gunforged isn't your kind of game, I still appreciate you watching this video, liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Those contributions are also very welcome and very much appreciated. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to support my work, you can purchase one of my courses, you can purchase my game Gunforged on Steam, and you can sign up for my email list at firebelly.com. All the ways that you can support me are linked in the description below.